Hello, I'm Graham Fitch and I'm coming to you from Steinway Hall in London, and I'm going to be talking about arpeggios, how to get comfortable with arpeggios. Before I do, if you've not already subscribed to Pianist Magazine's YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button right now and you will get, as soon as something comes out, you will be told about it. Now, arpeggios often give people problems because they say that they're really uncomfortable and unreliable and they never know whether they're going to work or not. So I'm going to look at exam type arpeggios first, and then we're going to look at arpeggios that we find in real music, because of course these could be two different things. I think the first thing to be said about an arpeggio is we need a different position for our arm than we do for a scale. So if I play a scale of, let me not go to C, every pianist goes to C immediately, don't they? Let me start with a D major scale. So you can see where my arm is in relation to my hand. If I started an arpeggio like that, do you see how far away my thumb is from the next note that it's going to have to play, which is an A, sorry, the D after the A. So if I would just do one thing, and a good way to try this is if you play the thumb and the note before together, if your hand is able to. If it's not, there are other ways of making that connection, which I will explain in a minute. Do you see how that gives you a slightly more open-armed position? This would be a scale position, this is an arpeggio position. So if I lead with my arm and already have my elbow a little bit out and high, then the transition from the third finger to the thumb is so much easier because I'm very much closer to my new thumb note. You see, I'm virtually there. It's amazing how many people make that mistake, or rather don't use that position to play arpeggios. So scale position, arpeggio position. It's just a slight difference. Now, the problem with arpeggio playing, and any piano teacher who's watching this will immediately identify, is this, I call it Kfc elbow, which is where the elbow just starts to dip around like this. Let's see if I can do it. You know, Kfc elbow. So what we've got to do there is to glide like a swan on the water with the arm. Do you see how smooth the arm movement is? It's across the key, it's not up and down. Now, there is a problem with the thumb in an arpeggio, because when we can put a thumb under in a scale maybe, putting a thumb under in an arpeggio can be problematic, especially for people with small hands. I would just like to clarify that there are two approaches. One is the thumb under approach, which is a little bit more old school, old-fashioned. People still do it. I use both because I've got a large hand and I find the thumb under really possible for me. So if I'm playing this arpeggio, I can put my thumb under and my fourth finger over there with no trouble. That doesn't cause me any tension, it's perfectly fine. But of course, if I've got a small hand, or like a child's hand, or just a small hand, then that movement from here to here could be problematic, in which case we have to find another way of getting the thumb to its next note. And this is known as thumb over. So it's either thumb under or it's thumb over. Put that in huge inverted commas because some people sense it as a shift across. So let's go to C. What I'm doing, instead of putting my thumb underneath my hand in the traditional way like this, I move it so that it joins my hand, but it's not actually under, and then I shift across. Now I'm going to, do you see how that works? Now what I do for myself, and in my teaching, I feel that as I release this third finger, there's a small rotational movement that takes me from the G to the C. you really don't hear any gap, do you? If it's done well, you don't hear a gap. Now, I'm going to give you a little exercise to practice. I call it target practice. Now, I'm going to land on different notes each time. Do you see how accurate it is? Do you hear any break? Do you hear any break? You're not aware of a break, are you? If I would do this, you'd be aware of a break. If I lift my arm up in order to put my thumb down, that would be terrible, because you would hear a great whacking great accent there, and it would slow you down. So the idea of the rotational release is to keep you very close to the key. The feeling, it's a little bit like pinging a rubber band, an elasticated band. You know, pull it back on your finger like this and snap it and it pings. That's how I feel the transition from there to there. So that's the thumb over, in the sense that the thumb looks like it's coming over, but it's really just a shift across with a rotational release. So you've either got the thumb under or you've got the thumb over. And I use both of them depending on the context. Now, I'd like to show you this little section. I already took the arpeggio before. This happens to come from the Mendelssohn Rondo Capriccioso, where we have this lovely tune. That section there. Now, I'm using a thumb under approach for that because I like to feel those joins. Now, if we are using a thumb under, it's very helpful to feel the pivot around the thumb. So what I do is I take my thumb and I play the note before it, and I can even do this holding down my thumb, the note before and the note after. Now, what to watch for here? Watch that the elbow is in one spot. We don't want this unstable elbow. And all of the adjustments are happening in the wrist. Can you see how free the wrist is there? So then I can play the note, play the thumb, and maybe I'll add a note on the top and a note below. At this point, I need to start moving. Do you feel how free and easy? Well, you can't feel how free and easy it is, but hopefully you'll be able to see it. I can tell you that that's completely free and easy. I don't feel like I'm doing anything except going for a nice ski. Feels like I've never been skiing, but I imagine that's what skiing must feel like, playing an arpeggio like that. Now, I'm going to show you, if you are using the thumb under approach, and only if you're using the thumb under approach, very good way of making the measurements between each finger secure. I call this the Mountaineers Footstep. So what I'm going to do is hold on a little longer to the previous note. Really sense those distances between my fingers. Now, this is not going to please everybody. I'm probably seeing a lot of piano teachers out there with their hands up in horror saying, oh, they're not still doing that sort of stuff, are they? Yes, people do. The Russian school very much holds to this. And there are some fantastic pianists who've come from this training. So yes, there are more modern ways of achieving fluent arpeggios, but please let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. This way works really well. So what we're doing is holding on, making an overlap, really sensing those intervals. And enjoying the sensation of being at the bottom of the key. And then when I play, I've got a much more developed sense of the distances between each finger within the arpeggio. I'm going to end by showing you a thumb over example from the repertoire, which is from Rachmaninoff's G minor Prelude Opus 23, number 5. I'm sure all of you who have played that, this is the one that that one, the military style prelude. But it's got a melting middle section where perhaps the soldier is on leave and meets his true love, you know. So lovely, isn't it, this? It's only lovely if you can manage the left hand, because otherwise it's a mess. So this is a thumb over, or rotational releases, or arm shifts, depending on how you want to call it. So I'm now going to just show you my left hand, slow motion. Now, when I get from my thumb here to my fifth finger on the F sharp, let me do it without the pedal. Again, do you notice how I'm releasing here? It's as though I'm rolling onto my thumbnail and then shifting across so that I land with my pinky on the F sharp. Very smooth, right? And again, if I do that well, I can do my target practice exercise. See how reliable that movement is? It's spring-loaded, meaning that when I release, there's a lovely feeling of there's no tension in the arm or hand, whatever. And because I've got no tension, I can land really freely. I can move fast and land freely. So, did you notice what happened on the way down? Now, I don't keep my thumb out like this and then move. I allow my thumb to come back so that it's joined my hand, and then I make my rotational release that way. So, and that sounds, I hope, even, fast enough. It's very reliable. I'm not worried when I get to that spot that I'm going to fall off the keyboard or land on the wrong note. So that is the arm shift or the thumb over. Now, finally, I'm going to give you a neat way of practicing arpeggios. I call it the Arpeggio Bouquet. I have chosen the note C to start on because we pianists tend to gravitate towards the note C. And I'm going to try and talk over the top of myself. And I'm going to do now, or let me do 2 octaves, why not? C major root position, C minor root position, A flat major first inversion, F minor second inversion, F major second inversion, A minor second inversion. Whoops, let me stop for a minute, kind of hard to talk and play. I was only changing one note at a time. So that's given me how many different arpeggios have I practiced, how many different inversions have I practiced from the same note. Quite a number. Now I can move on to my 4-note arpeggios, the dominant sevenths. First of all, the root position in the key of F, D flat, B flat, G, third inversion, and then a diminished seventh. Now, I was only doing 2 octaves to save a bit of time, but if you were working on that, you could do 4 octaves, and that would be a fantastic warm-up, especially if you changed the note each day. You started them from different notes. So let me just go over those dominant sevenths. Key of F, root position, key of D flat, first inversion, key of B flat, second inversion, and key of G, third inversion. And then finally with the diminished seventh. Quite a workout for the brain as well. I've got to really be concentrating on that. Of course, you wouldn't be talking as you played. You'd get to know that progression, and you'd be able to do that on any note, and that's just a great way to warm up. I hope you've enjoyed that session. I look forward to seeing you again very soon for the next one.